各位观众朋友们，大家好，我是 Katrina Chen 陈伟珍，欢迎来到周一详谈。今天我们周一详谈呢，把大家带到一个非常特别的地方哦，它是一个本地在 Richmond-Steveston 的餐厅，而且也是一个啤酒馆。那为什么来到这个地方呢？我们就要问一下我们今天特别请到的特别来宾。这位特别来宾呢，也是我之前在省政府的同事，而且我们非常有革命情感，因为身为女性跟妈妈，我们两位都是妈妈哦，然后都有年纪小的孩子，在从政的这个路途上实在是不是很容易，所以我们今天很高兴能够请到我们 Richmond-Steveston 的省议员，也是我们现在负责紧急事务的厅长 Greene. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for bringing us here at this very unique restaurant and brewery. Can you tell us a little bit about why you brought us here today?
Yeah, I think it's really important to support local businesses. They contribute so much to the vibrancy of our neighborhoods and the character. This particular business is owned by people who live right here in Richmond, and so it's a pleasure to be able to support them. They've been in a community a long time. They're really good partners for our community.
Yes, I remember years ago. Oh my God, I feel like my political career was like the last life or something. It's so long ago. But I was here for a childcare tour and visited your office, and you brought me here for lunch, and the lunch was so delicious. Yeah. The beer was great too, and I'm sure it's still really great. Can you tell us a little bit about what can you do as an MLA right here in Richmond? How do you support local businesses like this?
We've got a number of supports that we can help people with through the provincial government. Locally here though, I've been able to do some really great things. Any business, new business that's opened up, we provide them a sign that they can put in their window that says, support local, because it's so important to remind people of the value of local businesses. Amazon's never written a check to support a Little League team or your soccer team, but businesses that are local step up in so many different ways to support our community events, support our youth in their different sport journeys. And so I think it's really important that we show that support in return.
Totally. Well, the Chinese language community has a lot of small business owners and restaurant owners, so it's nice to be able to see how our local politicians and our local small businesses work together to support communities, and especially with the threat of the tariffs. Of course, now we're talking about buying local, supporting local business is so important because that money and our economy kind of goes all within our community. So as an MLA, do you come to local business a lot? I know your office is down the street right here in Steveston, and this is a really popular destination. I lived in Burnaby, but I come here regularly just to bring my family or friends to come here to hang out. Can you highlight your community a little bit for us?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm also privileged to be able to say that I'm also a resident of my own riding. Yeah. So the businesses that I support through my MLA offices, also the businesses that I've been part of in the community this entire time. And so we've been able to consistently have the message of buy local, eat local, play local, because this is a destination for all of that. It's everything from fishing supply, right? All the way to having a whale watch tour, all the restaurants that you could want, as well as medical services, physiotherapy, dental. We've really got it all in this riding, and in particularly Steveston Village, it's very tight-knit, and everybody helps each other, and that is including the business community. So it's a really special place, and I think with the threat of tariffs, we really have to protect their treasures. They're part of our community in a really important way, and I think that in Richmond-Steveston, we are positioned to take advantage of some of the local tourism, because people are canceling their trips to the United States in support of Canadian sovereignty, in support of our economy. And so this is a beautiful place to take a staycation, or even welcome visitors. Yeah, or even welcome visitors from the East Coast.
That's right.
To come here to Richmond, to British Columbia, and see what we're all about. So we are going to be strong in the face of threats from the United States and celebrate our local community, our local businesses.
That's awesome. And your office, the MLA office, actually this is the first time I'm interviewing you in this capacity. Can you share with our audience a little bit about what an MLA office normally do for people? Particularly, do you have Chinese language constituents who come to your office for support, and what type of cases do you normally hear?
Our office can help people with anything to do with the provincial government service. So often we hear about people who have questions about how to get affordable housing, or they might have a question about how the medical services system works, or childcare benefit. And so we can help them resolve those problems, help them navigate through any particular question that they might have about an application form. And we do, in our office, have the ability, I have a staff person that can translate to Cantonese and Mandarin. So when people do need translation services, we can help them right here in our office. And if people have language translation needs outside of that, we can always bring in somebody from another constituency office to assist, because it's our deepest privilege to be able to help people. That's what we're there for, and that's our mission.
So whether your constituent speaks Mandarin, Cantonese, or another Chinese dialect, you may be able to have the support to make sure they get the language and culturally inclusive services.
Yes.
That's great to hear. And I want to talk a little bit about your ministry. Your ministry is still fairly new to the BC government. I think it started maybe 2-3 years ago or so. It is the Emergency Management and Climate Readiness. And now you are the minister responsible for this ministry. Can you tell us a bit more about your priorities? Why do we need this ministry? And what are some of the things that you are working on right now?
Yeah, I think the work of the ministry is really important. It's not just responding to emergencies. So that's often what people see, that there's been a flood or a fire, and that my ministry is there organizing response and keeping people safe and getting them the support that they need to get through a difficult time. But so much of it is about being ready, being prepared. And so we have a number of grant streams that help local governments, so like the city of Richmond, for example, to do planning work to make sure that that they're ready in the event of an emergency, that they understand what their risks are and how to avoid them, and how to plan to support people in times of need. And I think that work is really important. So we help local governments with planning, with infrastructure projects, like, for example, a pump station, all kinds of different ways to keep communities safe, and be ready and waiting in case the unexpected happens. We don't want it to, but we're ready in case it happens.
I do think that a lot of people are paying attention to emergency readiness right now, especially given the fire in California and the recent earthquake. Do you have some tips or advice for how, like, a regular citizen like us can be better prepared for emergencies when it happens?
Being prepared is such a great way to not just protect yourself, but make you and your family more resilient. So if something bad does happen, you bounce back quicker, you get back to normal more quickly. And so some of the things that people can do is check your insurance coverage. So whether you're a renter or an owner, your insurance coverage and the things that are covered under your plan are really important. So ask your insurance broker to help you figure out what coverage you need. Depending on where you are in BC, there's different risk hazards, right? And so understanding that's really important. And then personally in your own home, whether you're in an apartment or a townhouse or a detached house, you should have a grab and go kit. So that's something that if there was an earthquake, a reason to suddenly evacuate, you could grab that bag or box of things and take it with you as you exit as soon as safely possible. And so so you know that you have the things that you need for your personal wellness. It might include people think of water, right? You do need to have your water, non-perishable food. People might not think about medications. So if there's a medication you need that's critical to your well-being, you should have a backup supply in your grab-and-go bag. You should also have a copy of those insurance documents, because the last thing you want to be doing is digging around trying to find insurance documents in your email when you're being evacuated, right? It's really, really difficult. So people can go to Prepared BC. It's a website. It has a lot of resources that are translated, so they're accessible for people with different languages, and so that they can work on those plans with their home.
Okay, so Prepared BC is the website where you can get a list of items for people to think about and prepare.
Yeah, Prepared BC, and then if people want information on emergencies as they happen, there's also Emergency BC. So being prepared is wonderful, and should the unexpected happen, the government is ready and waiting, able to respond.
Okay. Well, I remember years ago, I have also personally went on some government website, I can't even remember which website right now, to go through like a list of items I have to prepare in a bag. I think that was at least maybe 5-6 years ago now. So do they have to be like regularly updated? Now I'm like, oh my God, maybe it's time for me to update it, to look at what I have.
Yeah, definitely check the expiration dates on things, replenish those as necessary. You could also put it on your annual checklist, because annually you're supposed to check your smoke detector to see if it works. Okay. Maybe that's a good time to check on your emergency bag, right? Okay. And so just kind of building that into routine, and it's really good to share that with that information with all the people in your household, because let's say an earthquake happens, and you're at work in Burnaby, and your partner and child is in Richmond. Do you have a plan on what that looks like, right? And so it's important to think these scenarios out ahead of time and put into place a strategy so that you know that you can have comfort what's going to happen in case that unexpected event happens.
Of course, yeah. Well, as a government, right, you probably get a lot of information about, what may come, but it's hard to predict because emergency happens when it happens, especially when it comes to climate emergencies. How is our government helping people to prepare, other than, what we can do to be ready at home or make plans? But what is the government doing then?
Yeah, we have new legislation that is helping to guide next steps. So in particular, it's being specific about local governments understanding what their risks are. Many local governments are already doing this work, particularly like in Richmond, really understanding what those different risks are and planning for those hazards, but just making it clear that that's, something that should be happening. And then we do large-scale exercises as well from time to time. So for example, we just completed a large-scale exercise in the last year, and on an earthquake example. And so in those cases, we would work with different levels of government. We'd bring in non-governmental partners that would be part of an emergency response, First Nations partners, and making sure that everything runs as expected, and what are the lessons learned. That's the most important part of any kind of exercise or even an event that happens. We want to make sure that we're always having continuous improvement, so that we're having the best response we possibly can.
And is this coordinated like on a regular basis, locally, provincially, and also federally? Because I understand that there's different jurisdictions, different responsibilities.
Yeah, my ministry is very much a coordinating ministry, and so we bring in many different partners into that process. It is really important that we have many different folks at the table so that that they understand where those roles are as well, right? And even within our provincial government, there's different ministries that might be called in on different kinds of events. So our role being like that coordinating role. So if there was, for example, the Chilcotin landslide, we ask the Ministry of Water, Land and Resource Stewardship to be taking that role because of the nature of their portfolio. So there's definitely a lot of work that happens behind the scenes to make it look like it's seamless, but bringing in those partners and coordinating is super important to a really good response to an event.
Yeah, and I know you are really passionate about climate readiness. and also climate justice. Can you talk a bit more about what your ministry is doing in terms of preparing for any climate changes? How can we better respond? And how can we also do our part as a provincial government or as citizens to make sure we're ready for climate changes?
Yeah, climate change is getting worse. It's making events more often and more severe, and that's hard to see as a parent, right? Knowing that our children are going to be more challenged than us. Our provincial government is working right now on updating hazard maps for British Columbia, so understanding what our hazards are, like heat, for example, drought, wildfire. And so those maps are going to be completed soon. They help guide our planning, as well as local governments and interested entities, right? Maybe the Red Cross. And then from there, we're going to work on regional maps that have a much finer tooth comb so that we can understand at a much more localized level. But right now, completing those big scale maps so we can understand overall what it looks like. And going from there, offering grants to municipalities, making sure that we're always thinking about people who are vulnerable, people who are more vulnerable, who are lower income, who are seniors, maybe they have people with medical problems. They're the ones impacted the most severely by climate change, and we need to maybe always keep those folks in mind.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing this. I think even though sometimes we live on our daily basis, we don't really think about emergencies or climate justice or changes. But I remember when I was in MLA, when I visit local schools, so many kids, when I ask them what are your top issues, they're like climate, because we're so worried about what type of world we're growing up in and how to be ready for it, how do we adjust to changes. So I think your ministry's work is very important and critical to help us to go through changes. And hopefully the government continues. I know it's not your ministry, but hopefully the government continues to really work on the Clean BC plan that we have to continue to fight against climate changes. It's hard, but we have to do our part.
It's important work, right? And everybody has a part to share. And when we all work together, we're going to get there. Yes. But we know how important it is, and we can't give up. We owe it to our kids and their kids.
Yeah. 100%. And speaking of kids, yes. I know that's where we connect a lot as colleagues and as friends and as women in politics. Well, although I've left politics now, but people always say to me that you've left the electoral politics, but we're always connected because as a community we work together to make sure we have positive political changes. But it's not easy, and I don't normally like to ask women this question because women always get asked this question so much, so I was really happy to ask Premier this question last time. Yeah. But I do know personally, you being on city council, now as an MLA, as a minister, and you have to travel back between Victoria, Richmond all the time and across the province, really, especially when there is an emergency. As a minister, you're responsible to go everywhere. How is it like being an MLA, especially you being on city council? What's the difference? And also, what would you say to women and girls who are interested in going into politics?
Yeah, and I think that that's really important because we do need more women in politics. I think that the data is pretty clear on governments being able to deliver really important wellness for populations. All kinds of indicators go up with the participation of women in politics. It's really amazing. It's incredible. But it's hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Right? When I was on council, it was maybe a little bit easier to balance because many of the meetings were in the evening, and I could dictate my own calendar more, right? But when you're in provincial politics, you're physically, gone from your community and your home and being able to support your family. I've been very lucky. My husband's been so good at, stepping into that gap, and I don't know that he knew quite the size and shape of that gap before he stepped into it. But he's been amazing. Really, throwing himself full into supporting the family while I'm gone. And my parents also live in Richmond, so being able to, tag them into the ring when it's just, it's not going well, it's such a release valve. So I would say to anybody who's considering entering politics, who's got those care responsibilities, is think about who's your personal team to support you. It takes a village, and it might not look like your partner or parents, but maybe it's a best friend or auntie, and understanding who your supports are, and having a really good discussion with people with those supports about what's possible. And I think that when we come together like that, we can really do some really great things, and support each other when it's tough, because the juggling is a little bit messy sometimes, right?
Yes.
And sometimes it's like personally sad. Like I missed my daughter's school presentation this week. And I really wanted to see that. She'd worked so hard on it. I have a video of it, but it's not quite the same as cheering her on in person, and I know that all the parents out there will really understand that, but it's so important that we do good work to support people. I know that I'm building a better future for my kids. I'm helping to create a place that not just them, but their friends, everybody that they care about is going to be better off, and that is so motivating, and I get up for that every day.
Yeah, I love how you really talked about this idea of supporting everyone from diverse experiences, diverse needs, diverse situations. And personally, I want to thank you. When I was in politics as a colleague, you've been a tremendous support to me, for me, and understanding my needs as a single mother and as an immigrant as well. Like, you really have that lens, because I think as women we connect in so many different ways, and as mothers, and everybody may have a different situation, but it's so important that we're there for each other. And I think that's what makes you a really good representative for the community, looking at how you bring us to your local business and your community offices down the street. So I really want to thank you for this opportunity to chat with us and share with us. One last quick question is, what would you like to achieve in your years in politics? Whether as a politician or as a mother, you have a lot of vision, I know, for climate justice as well, because for our future generation and for now, right? Anything you want to share with us about your personal and maybe career goals?
Yeah, I think it's, like, for me, like, vitally important that we continue to take action on climate, because building a clean economy is such a great economic opportunity for BC. There's so much capital and good jobs. Like, it's a really, really incredible opportunity. And on top of that, we get to have a better environment, right? It's such a win-win situation. And knowing that I've done my part to secure my kids' future, to secure all of our kids' future, with good, sustainable jobs on a planet that supports life, right? Like, if we keep heating up and burning down like California or our devastating wildfires, where do we live, right? And so making sure that we're working on climate, and very locally, I want to see more work on the Fraser River, on making sure that we are balancing our economic needs with the really important environmental needs, which are also economic needs, because we need them we need great ecology for a good fishery, right, for our tourism sector, for whale watching, as I said, yes, right? Yeah. As well as film. So, like, there's so much that comes out of looking after our environment in a really sustainable way, and it's all upsides.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your passion, knowledge, and community serving spirits with us. And so honored to have you here today, Kelly.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
那希望各位的观众朋友们喜欢我们今天的周一详谈，有空的时候也可以来到我们的 Richmond-Steveston 走走。希望我们下一集节目再见。